1 hour after my grandfather's funeral, I discovered a truth so devastating that my hands shook and I nearly lost control of the steering wheel. Not because of grief, but because the people who had been trying to kill him were my own family. When I pushed open the door to the law office, my younger brother had the attorney pinned against the wall, his voice low and vicious as he demanded a new will. In that instant, something cold settled in my chest. My grandfather had not died of old age. He had been poisoned slowly over the course of almost a year, and I was the only one still alive who held the proof. My name is Emily Carter. I am 29 years old. Just 1 hour earlier, I had laid my grandfather to rest in the quiet coastal city of Harbor Point. The funeral had barely ended. I walked slowly across the church parking lot, my fingers clenched tightly around a small brass key he had secretly pressed into my palm 3 months earlier, right when his strength first began to fade. Everyone said it was just the natural course of aging. They were wrong. I did not believe it. The phone in my pocket vibrated. An unknown number. The voice on the other end was calm at first, then unsteady. "Emily, this is Michael Lawson, your grandfather's attorney and his closest friend for decades. I received a letter from him. It was sent exactly 1 day before he died. What is inside will change everything. You need to come to my office on Grant Avenue right now. Come alone. Do not tell your parents. Do not tell your brother." His voice trembled as if he himself was afraid of what was about to come to light. I did not ask a single question. I got into my car and drove straight there. About 10 minutes later, I stopped in front of an old building hidden deep inside a quiet side street. Inside, the place was almost completely dark. The office door was half open, swaying gently in the sea breeze. I pushed the door and stepped inside. What I saw made my heart nearly stop. My younger brother Daniel Carter had Michael Lawson pressed hard against the wall. One hand was gripping the front of the lawyer's jacket, the other was clenched tight, shaking with rage. Daniel's voice dropped low, cold and sharp like a blade. "Hand over the new will, now!" Michael Lawson was panicking. His eyes locked onto mine at the far end of the room, filled with desperation like a drowning man catching sight of land. The instant my brother spun toward me, the lawyer suddenly shoved a hard object into the pocket of my jacket. His lips moved without sound. "Run!" The blood in my veins turned ice cold. The person threatening the life of my grandfather's closest and most trusted friend was my own brother. From that moment on, I understood a terrifying truth. Whatever they were hiding, they were willing to hurt anyone, to bury it forever in darkness. As my brother turned fully toward me, Michael Lawson pressed the object deeper into my pocket, his mouth forming a single word I would never forget for the rest of my life. "Run." My blood felt frozen solid. The man whose life was being threatened, the man my grandfather had trusted his entire life, was being attacked by my own flesh and blood. My brother, bound by family, bound by blood. And in that instant, everything became clear. Whatever secret they were protecting, they would destroy anyone who got in the way. If you are still listening, leave the city you are in, and the moment you are hearing this story in the comments. I need to know who is walking with me into this nightmare. Because what comes next will send a chill straight down your spine. I fled the law office and drove straight toward the family estate on Palm Avenue, my hands shaking violently on the steering wheel for nearly 10 kilometers without stopping. My parents and my brother Daniel had returned home from the post-funeral reception, saying they needed rest. The mansion was swallowed by darkness, with only a weak porch light flickering at the entrance. I parked 2 houses away, shut off the engine and waited. Only when every window went completely dark did I quietly open the side gate and slip into the kitchen through the door I had deliberately left ajar that morning. The marble floor was ice cold under my bare feet as I climbed the back staircase, carefully avoiding the third step that always creaked. My grandfather's bedroom door was closed. I opened it slowly, slid inside, and locked it behind me. The scent of salty sea air mixed with the familiar cedarwood fragrance from his old cologne hit me all at once, hard enough to knock the breath from my chest. I did not turn on the overhead light. I switched on only the small lamp beside the bed. The painting of his first ship still hung on the wall, slightly crooked just as it always had been. I lifted the painting off the wall. The safe was exactly where he had shown me years ago, back when he used to joke that it held a pirate's treasure. I inserted the tiny brass key. A soft click echoed in the room. Inside was only a thick, pale yellow envelope, nothing else. I carried it to the bed, sat down, and opened the metal clasp. The first page was handwritten in my grandfather's familiar script dated 11 days before his death. My dearest Emily, if you are reading this, then I am already gone. For the past 11 months, someone in this house has been replacing my heart medication with different pills, slowly destroying my body day by day. At first I noticed the taste was wrong. Then came the dizziness, then the chest pain that never truly went away. Every morning and every evening, I pretended to swallow the pills in front of them. But the moment I turned away, I kept the tablet hidden in my palm and carried it with me. I began driving regularly to the coastal city of Port Grace to see a private cardiologist, using routine business trips as an excuse. The blood test results made even the doctor turn pale. The level of cardiac toxins in my body was 4 times higher than the maximum safe therapeutic limit. The dosage was enough to kill a full-grown water buffalo, let alone an 83-year-old man. He kept 1 vial of the counterfeit medication. It was sealed inside a plastic pouch placed directly behind this letter. 2 weeks ago, he met with a notary on the mainland and executed a new will. Emily, you are to inherit 78% of my entire estate. This includes 42 vessels, 3 ports, commercial properties, brokerage accounts, everything. Your parents are completely removed from the inheritance. I discovered that they had secretly taken out a second mortgage on the company, quietly siphoning capital behind my back without my consent. Your brother Daniel and your cousin Laura will each receive 5% held strictly in trust. No more. I wanted to confront them, but I was afraid they would act faster. So I chose silence. And I chose preparation. I am sorry for leaving you to carry this alone, but in all my life you were the only one who loved the sea the way I did. Protect it for me. With all my love, your grandfather. I read the letter 3 times. Only when every word stopped blurring through my tears did I finally lower the page from my hands. Behind the letter were dozens of pages of documents. A notarized will officially stamped and archived. Medical test reports printed on hospital letterhead, sealed evidence logs, and a complete chain of custody, and a heat-sealed evidence pouch containing the counterfeit medication. Every page carried dates, signatures, initials, and witnesses. There was no gap, no weakness, no room for denial. I pressed the stack of papers against my chest. The room seemed to tilt beneath me. These were the same hands that once tucked a blanket around me when I was 5 years old. The same voices that sang to me every summer on my birthday. And yet they had poisoned him for nearly a full year, believing his death would hand them the keys to an entire empire. They never imagined that while they counted the days waiting for him to die, he was rewriting the rules of the game. I sat on his bed until the first light of dawn slipped through the slats of the shutters, the evidence still clenched in my hands. Proof that the people sleeping downstairs were nothing more than strangers wearing the faces of my family. From that moment on, this house was no longer a home. It became a cage. Since the funeral, my father, Richard Cole, asked me the same question every morning over coffee. Lately, has anyone strange called you? He smiled when he said it, but the smile never reached his eyes. My mother, Evelyn Cole, suddenly began cooking all my favorite dishes. Every meal she sat across from me, watching every bite I lifted to my mouth. Each time my phone vibrated, her gaze flicked toward me without fail. I pretended to stay calm, but my hand never strayed far from the phone. My brother Lucas lingered outside my bedroom door until the hallway lights went completely dark. His shadow stretched beneath the door, long and silent like a warning. I could no longer sleep. I knew I had to leave this house. But before I did, I needed proof strong enough that they could not deny it or twist it into something else. I sent a message to Aaron Blake, my closest friend since our first year of college and the only person I still trusted. Aaron now worked as an audio engineer for major concert productions in the coastal city of Port Grace. We agreed to meet at a tiny Cuban coffee shop on the corner of Ash Street and Harmony Avenue, the one with cracked plastic tables tucked behind the building. I arrived first, ordered 2 strong milk coffees, and waited. Aaron walked in wearing a black hooded jacket despite the heavy heat. He sat down across from me, wasting no time. "Let me see it." I slid my phone across the table. The night before, I had photographed every single page of the documents hidden inside my grandfather's safe. Aaron scrolled through the screen in silence. His jaw tightened with each slow swipe. When he finished, he looked up, his voice lower than before. "Tonight, your entire family is taking the largest sport fishing yacht out to sea for a sunset memorial. Everyone is going. The house will be empty for at least 5 hours. We go in at 9 that night. We parked 3 blocks away and walked the rest of the distance, cutting through neighbors' back gardens until we reached the rear gate by the pool. Aaron carried a cheap magnetic keycard copier. The side door to the garage clicked open in seconds. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of marine fuel and pool chemicals. We did not hesitate. Aaron went straight into my father's office. The bottom drawer of the large wooden desk was locked, but a flathead screwdriver made quick work of it. Inside was a file folder labeled medical supplies. Bank transfer receipts were stacked inside, sent from an account under my mother's maiden name to a laboratory in the Huang Ridge region on the mainland. Each receipt listed the name of a cardiac medication. No branding. No markings. My stomach tightened as I read. The file clearly stated that the heart medication came in tablet form, with no identifying codes or labels. Attached were handwritten notes in my mother's careful script documenting a gradual increase in dosage week by week beginning in the 8th month. My stomach rolled violently. Aaron quietly photographed everything with his phone, set to silent mode, then moved toward the kitchen island where my brother Lucas had left an old phone plugged into its charger. The device still recognized my brother's face, but the battery was completely drained. Aaron connected the phone to his laptop from his backpack, worked quickly, bypassed the lock, and opened the messaging app. A group chat titled, "The Future," appeared on the screen. It contained hundreds of unread messages. Aaron scrolled straight to the beginning of the thread, dating back nearly a full year. A message from Evelyn. Today he complained that the medication tastes different. Lucas replied, "It is the new batch, the substitute. He already took it." Then my father Richard followed. The laboratory confirmed that the new shipment will push him past his tolerance threshold in less than 2 months. Evelyn answered. Once the doctor signs the death certificate, the bank will release the collateral funds. Then it is finished, Lucas added. The cash will last us through the end of the quarter. If needed, we make him disappear completely. A few messages later, my father sent a photo. On his desk sat a black duffel bag stuffed with cash. The caption beneath it held only one word: insurance. Aaron's face drained of color. He backed up the entire conversation onto an encrypted storage drive, then wiped every trace showing we had ever touched that phone. We left the house the same way we had entered, locking the door carefully behind us. Under the streetlights on Harmony Avenue, Aaron placed the tiny drive into my palm. They really did it, he said quietly. And they believe they are about to become rich. I stared at the small piece of plastic resting in my hand, the ground beneath me tilting once again. They have no idea, I whispered, that the money is already completely out of their reach. Aaron nodded once. Then we make sure they learn the truth in the most painful way possible. Not wanting to risk the home security system, Aaron waited until the motion sensors automatically shut down close to 11 that night. He walked 4 blocks from the parking spot wearing a black baseball cap, pulled low, head down, blending into the street like an overserved tourist drifting home after a long night. I sat inside the rental car, my heart pounding, watching Aaron fade step by step into the darkness. Less than half a minute later, he slid smoothly beneath Lucas's lifted black pickup truck. He pressed a voice-activated professional-grade recording device into place along the frame above the rear axle. No indicator lights, continuous battery life for 2 full days. The magnet locked on with a dry metallic snap. Before a single car passed by, Aaron was already back in the passenger seat. We drove 1 block farther and parked beneath a drooping sea almond tree along Seabird Lane. Engine off. Wireless earbuds in. The signal went live instantly. At first, only the faint hum of the street. Then the deep engine growl as the truck pulled away, heading toward the marina. We did not speak. The device captured everything with terrifying clarity. Close to midnight, the vehicle returned through the gate. A door opened. 3 pairs of footsteps crossed gravel. Metal clanged sharply as the truck bed dropped. Then voices rose, careless and unguarded, because they believed the garage door sealed them off from the rest of the world. My mother spoke first. The sharp, steady click of her heels echoed against concrete. Has that girl been acting strange since the lawyer incident? Earlier today, I saw her phone left on the kitchen counter. She deleted her call history, but I caught the area code from Grant Avenue. My father answered calmly. Glass touched glass as he poured something strong. She can delete whatever she wants. The death certificate has already been filed. Heart failure caused by chronic arrhythmia, signed, stamped, and entered into the court system. In a few business days, the judge will authorize the release of the assets. Lucas let out a short laugh. Keys clattered as he tossed them onto the workbench. She thinks she is smart. Always has. Grandfather let her steer the boats back when she was still in high school. Took her to every boat show along the coast. And what about me? Scraping barnacles off the hulls, getting paid scraps. He never once saw me. My mother spoke again, her voice softening, almost proud. That is why we started switching the medication nearly a year ago. Slowly, steadily. No trace left behind. The laboratory in the Huang Ridge region even removed all identifiers, so the pills looked identical. He never suspected his own family. My father cut in his voice, lower now, but still perfectly clear through the microphone. As soon as the inheritance process clears, more than $5 million will hit the main account. We pay off the bank, sell the fleet to the highest bidder. Then we fly south before the ink even dries on the paperwork. Emily will get nothing but whatever scraps the creditors leave behind, and there will be nothing left. A pause. Ice clinked softly against the side of a glass. Lucas stepped closer to the truck, his voice almost amused. She will stand there with that sad look on her face. And we will be sipping drinks on a beach she will never set foot on in her entire life. He laughed quietly. The sound of my mother's heels echoed as she walked toward the house, steady and final. Enough. Go to sleep. Tomorrow night there is still a memorial toast. Behave normally. The inner door closed. Silence returned, broken only by the distant croak of frogs somewhere beyond the trees. Aaron slowly removed his earbuds, his eyes fixed on the darkened house ahead. They just handed us the entire case, every last piece of it, he said quietly. Voices, timing, location data, 3 people confessing to premeditated murder. I looked down at my hands, shaking beyond my control. They had just raised their glasses to my grandfather's death as lightly as if they had closed a business deal. Aaron started the car. And now his voice turned cold. We make sure that deal collapses permanently. The morning of the official will announcement arrived under brutal heat, the sky clear and merciless. Coastal Prosperity Bank had reserved its largest conference room on the 2nd floor overlooking Central Avenue. More than 70 people filled the seats. Relatives I had not seen in years. Ship captains who had worked with my grandfather since the 1980s. Local reporters who sensed something big was coming. Even a representative from the provincial medical examiner's office sat quietly in the back row. My parents and my brother Lucas sat front and center, dressed as if attending a victory ceremony. My mother wore a strand of pearls. My father wore a dark blue suit with the family crest pinned to his chest. Lucas kept his sunglasses on, refusing to remove them despite being indoors. They smiled at everyone, accepted condolences with practiced ease. Smooth, polished, chilling. I sat 3 rows behind them, Aaron beside me in a borrowed suit. His laptop bag rested at his feet. The attorney Michael Lawson looked a decade older than the last time I had seen him. Dark circles framed his eyes. His hands trembled as he opened the leather briefcase. He cleared his throat. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are gathered to announce the final will of William Cole, executed and notarized 14 days before his passing. He read through the familiar provisions. Then came the turning point. Clause 7. I leave to my son Richard Cole and his wife Evelyn Cole $1 each as a symbolic bequest, acknowledging the benefits they have already received and the financial liabilities incurred by their unauthorized use of company assets as collateral without my consent. A wave of gasps swept through the room. My father shot halfway out of his chair, his face flushing red. Clause 8. I leave to my grandson Lucas Cole and my granddaughter Sophia Cole 5% each to be held in trust until they reach the age of 35. Lucas ripped off his sunglasses, his mouth hanging open. Clause 9. The remaining portion amounting to 78% of my entire estate, including the fleet, the ports, commercial real estate investment accounts, and all other lawful ownership interests I grant in full to my granddaughter Emily Cole. The room went dead silent. And in that exact moment the balance of power shifted completely. The projection screen behind attorney Michael Lawson suddenly flared bright white. Aaron Blake had successfully breached the bank guest Wi-Fi network and taken control of the entire audio and presentation system. The lights in the room dimmed automatically. Then my mother's voice filled the space. A recording captured 6 nights earlier. That girl has been acting strange since the lawyer situation. Once the doctor signs the death certificate, the bank will release the collateral assets. Then my father Richard Cole's voice followed, calm to the point of being chilling. As soon as the inheritance process is completed, more than $5 million will hit the account. We sell the fleet and disappear. My brother Lucas spoke last, his tone cold, almost amused. She will stand there with that pitiful look on her face while we sip drinks on a beach she will never set foot on in her entire life. Immediately afterward, each message from the group chat titled "The Future" appeared on the screen, displayed in exact chronological order, complete with clear timestamps. The sequence ended with the photograph of a black duffel bag stuffed with cash sitting on a desk. The room exploded. Reporters climbed onto chairs to get a better angle. Phones were raised high like a forest of dark mirrors pointed at the front row. 2 judicial officers in uniform moved swiftly down the aisle. My father screamed through the chaos, pointing straight at attorney Michael Lawson. "This is a fabrication. This will was signed under coercion." Lucas leapt from his seat, shoving past knees and handbags, charging straight toward me. "You did this! You did this!" Security stopped him just a few steps away. My mother collapsed into the center aisle. Her pearl necklace shattered, beads scattering across the carpet. She sobbed. "We only wanted what should have been ours." Michael Lawson did not flinch. He continued calmly reading the final clause, the one my grandfather had added in his own handwriting. "And to anyone who contests this will I leave not a single dollar. I instruct the executor to defend it with every resource necessary." The screen replayed the evidence in full, the volume louder this time. Right in front of the television cameras, 2 judicial officers placed handcuffs on my father, Richard Cole, my mother, Evelyn Cole, and my brother, Lucas. Lucas screamed my name the entire way as they led him out, his neck strained, tight veins standing out in stark relief. I remained seated until the room was completely empty. 78% of everything my grandfather had built now rested squarely on my shoulders, and heavier than all of it was the truth that the 3 people who should have loved me the most had chosen money over his life. By sunset, the will announcement had become the front page across every coastal newspaper. That afternoon, my parents and Lucas were released on bond as the law classified aggravated homicide as a charge requiring time to complete formal prosecution. They walked out of the courthouse smiling for the cameras, claiming the recording had been manipulated and the will signed under coercion. But the truth had already crossed the point of no return. They went straight home, stuffed 3 large duffel bags in a rush, and by midnight the fastest vessel in the fleet was already leaving the harbor. It was a luxury sport yacht more than 60 feet long, carrying the cold name Final Wager. The Coast Guard logged its course, cutting southeast through the water at full speed, first toward the islands, then toward anywhere with no extradition treaty. They believed they had escaped. They had no idea we were already waiting ahead. That same night, as soon as Aaron finished extracting the garage recordings, I called the Southern Regional Federal Investigations Office. Special Agent Rachel Morgan took my statement. She listened to every file, every conversation without interrupting once. When she finally spoke, she asked only one question. Could I get them to talk about the money one more time while they were still on land? I answered immediately. Yes. Aaron forged a message from Victor Hale, my grandfather's former chief financial officer, the one who had turned state witness and was now under protective custody. The message was brief. The money was ready. More than $5 million had been moved offshore, but the handoff had to be in person. Meeting time set for just before 4 in the morning. Come alone or the deal was off. My father replied in less than 2 minutes. They were on their way. The meeting point was Pier 19, located at the far tip of a private peninsula owned by the family. The gate was locked. No public access. Only a few sodium lamps cast weak yellow light onto the thick black water. Agent Morgan had placed 6 undercover officers hidden among stacked shipping containers and dock pylons. Aaron and I watched from a shrimp trawler moored 2 piers away, night vision binoculars pressed tight to our faces. Just before 4 in the morning, the Final Wager slid silently into the berth. Lights off. Engines throttled down until they were barely a whisper. My father cut the motor and threw a line onto the empty dock. All 3 stepped ashore, carrying heavy duffel bags and 1 rolling suitcase. Lucas swept the darkness with a flashlight. My mother clutched her bag against her chest as if it were a life preserver. From behind the fuel station, a voice called out. It was Victor Hale's recorded voice, played from the exact position the agents had chosen for the decoy. It told them the money was inside the office. They walked straight into the trap without hesitation. My father spoke first, his voice echoing off cold metal containers. He asked if more than $5 million in $100 bills was ready, and said they planned to leave before dawn. The agent replied perfectly, mimicking the voice. The money is inside, hurry. Lucas set his bag down, stretched his shoulders, and said coldly that once they were past the reef, Emily could pick through whatever scraps were left. She would be lucky to keep a single leaking boat. My mother let out a soft laugh. It was thin and unsteady, as if even she sensed that something was coming to an end. She had always believed she was special, and it was time for her to learn a different lesson. My father set the rolling suitcase down on the dock and bent to open it. Inside was no money, only bundles of blank paper tightly wrapped to resemble stacks of cash, a standard bait prop. "Count it fast and we go," he said, his voice sharp with urgency. In that exact moment, every high-intensity floodlight snapped on at once, washing the pier in white light as bright as day. From the darkness, 12 federal agents in ballistic vests stepped forward in unison, weapons trained directly on them. "Federal authorities, hands up. Now!" my mother screamed. Lucas spun around, searching for an escape, but found only black water and cold steel. My father stood, frozen, his mouth open, unable to form a single word. Special Agent Rachel Morgan stepped forward, badge raised, her voice steady and final as she began to read the charges. "Richard Cole, Evelyn Cole, Lucas Cole, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, major financial fraud, and interstate flight to evade prosecution. You have the right to remain silent." Lucas lunged toward the railing in desperation. 2 agents slammed him face down onto the wooden planks, blood seeping from the corner of his mouth. My mother collapsed to her knees, clutching her son's jacket, sobbing uncontrollably. "Do not say anything," she cried. "Do not say a word." My father stood staring at the bundles of fake paper, the truth finally crashing into him all at once. My grandfather had changed everything. He truly had changed everything. Handcuffs snapped shut with a dry metallic sound. The luggage was sealed and tagged, clearly marked as evidence of attempted flight. Body cameras and dock cameras captured every second. Lucas lifted his head, his lips split, and looked straight toward the shrimp trawler. He saw me standing under the lights. "You set us up," he spat. I did not answer. I did not need to. The microphone captured that confession perfectly. As the sun rose, the yacht Final Wager was seized. All 3 were escorted into secured vehicles and transported to the Central Detention Facility in the city of Port Grace. The story became the lead headline across every national news broadcast. They never set foot in the waters they dreamed of, and they never touched a single dollar. The federal courthouse in Port Grace loomed like a concrete fortress beneath the August sky. Inside courtroom 12A, the low hum of the air conditioning was loud enough to drown out the quiet coughs born of tension. Jury selection lasted 4 full days. Each potential juror was asked the same 2 questions. Had they ever lost a grandparent to illness? And had money ever torn their family apart? 3 potential jurors were dismissed simply because they could not hold back their tears. Opening arguments began on a Monday morning. The prosecutor, Rachel Morgan, wore a dark blue suit and spoke without once looking at her notes. She told the 12 seated jurors and 4 alternates that this was not a case about who did it. It was a story about how long it took, and how cold someone had to be to do it. She built a timeline. Nearly a full year of switched medication, falsified medical orders, pills calibrated week by week, dose by dose, designed to kill without leaving a trace. The courtroom fell completely silent. Prosecutor Rachel Morgan walked the jury through every piece of evidence slowly and precisely. The letter hidden in my grandfather William Cole's safe. Blood test results showing cardiac toxins far beyond safe limits. Invoices for medication purchased from the Huang Ridge Laboratory. Screenshots of the secret group chat. The garage audio recording. The dockside surveillance video. Each document appeared one by one on 2 large screens, sharp down to the smallest detail. When the recording played, capturing the laughter of Richard Cole, Evelyn Cole, and Lucas Cole as they spoke about a natural death approaching, the courtroom froze. No one coughed. No one moved. Only their own voices echoed through the cold space. Defense counsel tried to focus on my sudden inheritance and asked whether I felt guilty. Every time my answer was the same. I felt guilty only that the people who raised me chose money over my grandfather's life. Then Richard Cole took the stand. He wore an ill-fitting borrowed suit, the collar revealing the orange fabric of his detention uniform beneath. He claimed my grandfather had been mentally confused and that I had coerced him into signing the will. Prosecutor Morgan immediately dismantled the claim, with testimony from the notary and hospital visitation logs, proving I had never been alone with my grandfather after the will was executed. The jury returned guilty verdicts on all counts. Premeditated murder for financial gain. Organized conspiracy to commit murder. Aggravated homicide of a vulnerable adult over the age of 65. Major financial fraud and money laundering. Because the prosecution did not seek the death penalty, the law allowed only one sentence. The judge, Daniel Harper, looked at each defendant in turn. Richard Cole was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Evelyn Cole was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Lucas Cole was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. In the final row, Sophia Cole sat in silence. She was not charged, having admitted she overheard the plan but failed to report it. The court immediately revoked her entire trust allocation. Every dollar was transferred directly into the Victim Compensation Fund. As the judicial officers stepped forward to place the handcuffs on him, Lucas turned toward the gallery. His eyes met mine across the courtroom. For a brief instant, the hatred cracked. Something raw surfaced beneath it, perhaps regret, perhaps fear. Then the mask dropped back into place. His lips formed a single word. I did not need to hear it to understand. I stood, smoothed the skirt of my dress, and walked out without looking back. The courtroom door closed behind me with a deep final sound, like a full stop. On a quiet Thursday morning, I stood alone before my grandfather's grave at the Port Haven Cemetery. The simple gray granite headstone bore his name, William Cole, 1939 to 2024, Guardian of the Sea. A soft breeze carried the scent of salt and frangipani through rows of white markers. I placed a bouquet of sunflowers at the base of the stone, the flower he loved most. 2 years earlier, I had legally changed my name to Emily Cole, reclaiming the surname my mother carried before she entered that family. The court clerk had stamped the documents without comment. The paperwork was finalized during the same week the prison sentences became permanent. From that moment on, the old name no longer belonged to me. The fleet still operated with 42 vessels, but everything else had changed. All captains were placed on fixed salaries. Every crew member received full medical insurance, and every dollar of profit beyond operating costs was transferred directly into the William Cole Medical Scholarship Fund. To date, 58 full scholarships had been awarded to first-generation college students pursuing cardiology and geriatric medicine. Young people who had grown up on food assistance but earned perfect scores on their medical entrance exams. I personally reviewed every application. About 6 months after the trial, Sophia tried to contact me once. She asked whether there was anything she could have as a keepsake of our grandfather. I sent back a single postcard. It showed the cemetery. On the back was one line: "Your memory was already written." She never contacted me again. Aaron moved to the city of Anson, working as an audio engineer for major live productions. But every year without fail, he flew back in February for the scholarship ceremony. We sat on the pier at sunrise, drank strong, hot coffee, watched the sea glitter under the early light, and never spoke about the trial. Occasionally, tourists ask why the largest charter company on the coast is run by a woman not yet 30 with no family name displayed on the sign. I always tell them the truth. The man who built all of this wanted the ocean to belong to everyone, not to be locked away behind greed. I knelt gently, brushed the thin layer of sand from the stone, and finally spoke the words I had carried in my heart for 2 full years.